Success is not the result of sudden bursts of motivation or moments of inspiration that come and go. It is constructed through steady, deliberate action taken long after the excitement has faded. The uncomfortable tasks you avoid are often the very ones that carry the greatest return, yet most people wait for a feeling that may never arrive before they begin. Progress favors those who move forward despite internal resistance. Waiting to feel ready creates a false sense of preparation that disguises fear as patience. Motivation is emotional, unpredictable, and easily influenced by circumstances, while success requires consistency regardless of mood. When action is dependent on how you feel, your results become inconsistent as well. Learning to operate without emotional permission is a foundational principle of growth. Uncomfortable tasks stretch your discipline and expose weaknesses that comfort keeps hidden. Each time you confront what you would rather avoid, you train yourself to handle greater responsibility and pressure. Discomfort becomes a teacher, revealing what needs improvement and sharpening your focus. Over time, what once felt difficult becomes normal because your capacity has expanded. Inspiration is often the reward of action, not the prerequisite for it. Movement creates momentum, and momentum generates belief. When you act first, clarity begins to emerge, and confidence grows from evidence rather than imagination. This process turns effort into energy instead of draining it. Those who achieve meaningful results understand that discipline is a daily decision, not a personality trait. They do not rely on excitement to sustain progress. They rely on structure, habits, and standards. Repetition of uncomfortable actions builds reliability, and reliability builds trust in yourself. Self-trust becomes a powerful internal engine that keeps you moving forward. The mind naturally seeks comfort and familiarity, but success demands growth and adaptation. Every uncomfortable task represents a crossing from who you are into who you must become. Avoidance keeps you tied to old patterns, while engagement rewires your identity through experience. Growth always feels awkward before it feels empowering. Consistency compounds in silence, often unnoticed in the early stages. Small actions performed daily, especially when they are inconvenient, create exponential results over time. What looks insignificant in the moment becomes transformational in retrospect. This compounding effect rewards persistence, not intensity. People who wait for motivation often mistake activity for progress, staying busy without advancing. In contrast, those who prioritize uncomfortable tasks focus on what actually moves the needle. They choose effectiveness over ease and results over relief. This distinction separates motion from achievement. Discomfort also builds resilience, teaching you that difficulty is survivable and temporary. Each completed challenge weakens fear's influence and strengthens resolve. You begin to associate effort with capability rather than exhaustion. This mental shift changes how you approach future challenges. Success emerges when uncomfortable action becomes a lifestyle rather than an exception. The willingness to do what others avoid creates a competitive advantage that cannot be replicated by talent alone. Over time, discipline replaces motivation as the primary driver, and progress becomes inevitable. Discipline is the ability to act according to intention rather than impulse. Feelings are temporary, fluctuating with circumstances, energy levels, and external events, while discipline provides stability when emotions are unreliable. When progress depends on how you feel, consistency becomes impossible because emotions are not designed to lead. Commitment anchors behavior to purpose instead of mood. Emotions are reactive by nature, responding to comfort, fear, and convenience. They seek immediate relief rather than long-term reward. Discipline, on the other hand, is proactive and intentional, allowing you to choose growth even when it feels inconvenient. This difference determines whether effort is sporadic or sustained. Commitment creates a framework that removes daily negotiation. When you are committed, you do not debate whether to act, you simply execute the decision that has already been made. This eliminates wasted mental energy and prevents hesitation from becoming a habit. Discipline simplifies life by reducing internal conflict. Feelings often exaggerate difficulty, making tasks appear heavier than they truly are. Discipline cuts through this distortion by focusing on execution rather than perception. Once action begins, resistance tends to diminish, and progress becomes more manageable. The discipline to start overrides the emotion to avoid. Results are produced by repetition, not intention. Discipline ensures that necessary actions are repeated regardless of emotional state. This repetition builds skill, momentum, and confidence through experience. Over time, disciplined behavior reshapes identity and establishes a new standard for performance. Relying on feelings places control outside yourself, allowing circumstances to dictate progress. Discipline restores control by aligning actions with values instead of conditions. When you act from commitment, external disruptions lose their power to derail you. Stability replaces unpredictability. Discipline also builds self-respect by keeping promises made to yourself. Each follow-through strengthens trust in your own word, while emotional inconsistency weakens it. Self-trust becomes a silent force that drives further discipline. This cycle reinforces reliability and inner confidence. Emotions often seek comfort, but discipline seeks effectiveness. Comfort may soothe the present moment, but effectiveness shapes the future. Choosing discipline over emotion requires maturity and long-term thinking. This choice repeatedly separates those who advance from those who stagnate. Commitment transforms discipline from force into identity. What once required effort becomes automatic through practice. Discipline stops feeling restrictive and begins to feel empowering because it aligns with who you believe yourself to be. Behavior becomes congruent with vision. When discipline governs action, progress continues even on difficult days. Feelings may fluctuate, but commitment remains fixed, ensuring steady movement toward meaningful outcomes. Avoiding hard work may feel like self-preservation in the moment, but over time it quietly reinforces limitation. Each time effort is postponed or difficulty is sidestepped, the mind learns to associate growth with threat. This association shrinks potential and narrows vision, making challenges appear larger than they truly are. Comfort slowly becomes a cage built from repeated avoidance. Resistance is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that growth is nearby. When resistance is confronted, hidden strength begins to surface. The very act of engaging difficulty rewires how you perceive your own abilities. What once felt overwhelming starts to feel manageable because experience replaces fear. Hard work exposes gaps in skill, focus, and discipline, but those gaps are necessary for improvement. Avoidance hides these weaknesses, allowing them to persist unchallenged. Confrontation brings clarity by showing exactly where growth is required. This awareness becomes a roadmap for progress rather than a source of discouragement. Capacity expands through use, not intention. Just as muscles grow under strain, mental and emotional strength develop under pressure. Each challenge completed stretches your limits slightly further than before. Over time, this expansion becomes measurable in confidence and competence. Avoidance also erodes trust in yourself. When you repeatedly choose the easy path, self-doubt quietly takes root. You begin to question your ability to handle difficulty because you have little evidence that you can. Confronting resistance replaces doubt with proof through action. Confidence is not built through positive thinking, but through successful engagement with difficulty. Each time you face resistance and persist, you collect evidence of capability. This evidence accumulates and reshapes self-belief. Confidence becomes grounded in experience rather than hope. Hard work sharpens focus and resilience by forcing you to stay present under pressure. It teaches patience, problem solving, and adaptability. These qualities cannot be learned through comfort or theory alone. They emerge only through direct engagement with challenge. Avoidance limits opportunity by shrinking what you are willing to attempt. As your tolerance for discomfort decreases, so does your range of action. Confronting resistance expands this range, opening access to greater responsibility and reward. Opportunity favors those willing to endure effort. Resistance often feels like a barrier, but it functions as a gateway. On the other SID, E of discomfort is increased skill, insight, and self-respect. Each passage through resistance makes the next one less intimidating. Momentum replaces hesitation. Confronting hard work reshapes identity by aligning self-image with capability. You stop seeing yourself as someone who avoids difficulty and start seeing yourself as someone who handles it. This identity shift fuels further growth and sustained confidence. Clarity is often misunderstood as something that arrives before action, when in reality it is revealed through movement. Waiting to fully understand every step before beginning creates paralysis and overthinking. Action cuts through uncertainty by replacing speculation with experience. Once you begin, the path starts to define itself through feedback and results. Momentum is generated by movement, not planning. No amount of thinking creates the energy that comes from taking the first step. Action creates forward motion, and forward motion reduces resistance. As momentum builds, tasks that once felt heavy become easier to carry. Identity is shaped by what you repeatedly do, not by what you intend to do. Each action reinforces a self-image, either as someone who acts or someone who hesitates. When you take action consistently, your identity shifts to match your behavior. This shift changes how you approach challenges and decisions. Clarity grows through interaction with reality rather than imagination. Ideas tested through action become refined, while untested ideas remain vague. Mistakes provide direction by showing what works and what does not. This process transforms confusion into understanding. Momentum also changes emotional states. Action disrupts fear, doubt, and hesitation by redirecting focus toward execution. The mind follows the body, and movement reduces internal noise. Energy increases as progress becomes visible. Waiting for clarity of 10 disguises fear as preparation. Action exposes fear and neutralizes it through repetition. What once felt intimidating loses its power once experienced directly. Courage is strengthened by doing, not by waiting. Identity growth occurs when behavior aligns with values rather than comfort. Each decisive act reinforces self-respect and personal authority. Over time, action becomes part of who you are rather than something you force. This alignment creates internal consistency. Momentum compounds when small actions are repeated. Each completed task makes the next one more likely. This compounding effect builds confidence and reinforces commitment. Progress becomes self-sustaining. Action creates learning that theory cannot provide. Real-world engagement develops adaptability and resilience. These traits expand capability beyond what planning alone can achieve. Growth accelerates through exposure and effort. When action becomes the priority, clarity, momentum, and identity evolve naturally as byproducts. Movement leads and understanding follows through experience. Short-term discomfort is often misunderstood as unnecessary suffering, when in reality it is an investment with lasting returns. Growth requires stepping beyond ease and familiarity, and that transition rarely feels pleasant. Discomfort signals that change is taking place and that old limitations are being challenged. Without this friction, meaningful progress cannot occur. Freedom is built through choices that limit comfort today in exchange for options tomorrow. Discipline, learning, and effort may feel restrictive in the moment, but they expand control over your future. Each uncomfortable decision reduces dependence on circumstances and increases personal autonomy. Over time, these decisions create flexibility and independence. Fulfillment comes from knowing you have earned your progress rather than stumbled into it. Effort gives meaning to achievement by connecting outcome to intention. When discomfort is endured willingly, the reward carries a deeper sense of satisfaction. Fulfillment grows when challenge is met rather than avoided. Self-respect is forged through keeping commitments when it would be easier to quit. Each time you push through discomfort, you reinforce trust in your own word. This trust becomes an internal standard that guides future behavior. Self-respect accumulates through consistent follow-through. Avoiding discomfort may provide temporary relief, but it often creates long-term constraints. Procrastination, neglect, and avoidance compound into stress and limitation. The discomfort avoided today returns later with greater intensity. Choosing short-term ease often trades long-term peace for momentary comfort. Discomfort also sharpens focus by removing illusions. It reveals priorities and exposes weaknesses that need attention. This awareness is uncomfortable but necessary for refinement. Growth depends on honest confrontation with what needs improvement. Freedom is not the absence of effort, but the result of disciplined effort sustained over time. Structure creates liberty by reducing chaos and uncertainty. Discomfort endured in building systems leads to ease in maintaining results. Order replaces struggle through consistency. Fulfillment deepens when challenges align with purpose. Discomfort endured for meaningful goals feels different from suffering caused by avoidance. Purpose transforms effort into progress. This alignment makes difficulty bearable and worthwhile. Self-respect strengthens when discomfort is faced voluntarily rather than forced by circumstance. Choosing effort over avoidance builds inner authority. You begin to see yourself as capable of handling pressure. This perception influences every area of life. Short-term disco. Effort, embraced consistently, becomes the foundation upon which freedom, fulfillment, and self-respect steadily grow. Every difficult decision carries more weight than it appears on the surface. It is not just a momentary choice, but a declaration of direction. When faced with discomfort, effort, or sacrifice, the decision you make reinforces a pattern of behavior. Over time, these patterns shape the trajectory of your life. Each choice acts like a vote cast in an ongoing election of identity. Easy decisions often preserve who you have been, while difficult ones move you toward who you could become. The accumulation of these votes defines character, discipline, and capability. Identity is not chosen once, but reaffirmed daily. Difficult decisions demand awareness and responsibility. They force you to consider long-term consequences rather than short-term relief. Choosing effort over ease trains the mind to value growth above comfort. This mindset gradually becomes instinctive. The future you desire is built quietly through repeated acts of discipline. Major outcomes are rarely the result of a single dramatic choice. They emerge from consistent alignment between actions and intentions. Each difficult decision strengthens that alignment. Avoiding hard choices may reduce stress in the moment, but it weakens long-term resolve. Comfort-based decisions often conflict with stated goals. This inconsistency creates frustration and self-doubt. Difficult decisions restore coherence between desire and action. Confidence grows when you witness yourself choosing strength over convenience. Each hard decision provides evidence that you can be trusted with responsibility. This evidence builds self-belief grounded in experience. Confidence becomes earned rather than imagined. Difficult decisions also clarify priorities. They reveal what truly matters by demanding sacrifice. When you consistently choose growth, your values become visible through behavior. Values lived out reinforce personal integrity. The process of becoming is shaped by repetition. One difficult choice may feel insignificant, but many form a powerful pattern. These patterns solidify into habits that define daily life. Habits ultimately shape destiny. The future responds to consistency more than intensity. Showing up when it is uncomfortable creates momentum that compounds. Difficult decisions made regularly create a path that is difficult to derail. Stability emerges through commitment. Every difficult decision, taken seriously and repeated consistently, strengthens the connection between who you are today and the future you are actively building.